New York, New York. The city's so nice, you gotta say it twice. The Empire City, the Big Apple, the concrete jungle wet dream tomato, where on any given day, something like this could happen to you.
Fucking raining, man. Shit gonna fuck up my fucking leather, man.
Shit ain't leather, nigga.
Fuck you, who the fuck is you, fam? Yo, fam.
Or something like this.
Yo, my man, why you got on that purse, huh? Nigga, this ain't no fucking purse. I'm the big dilf. Don't do that. $100 Patron in the bid at, you heard? Get your money up, not your funny up.
And where you can buy an ungodly abomination like this.
Yes, sir, man. Help you today.
Hey, yo, Ak, can you turn my ramen and blue Takis the Aki way?
Sure! First, we open the ramen noodle and we put it inside the hot water. Put that on season. Then we put the Jamaican patty on the microwave. Then we put the mozzarella sticks on the fryer. Then we put the burger on the grill. Then we put the sweet peppers on the grill. Then we put the bacon on the grill. Cheese on top. Then the mozzarella sticks. Now we gonna put on that Jamaican patty, baby. OMG.
Can't forget the Bev, right?
Never, never, never.
Bro, feed one bite of that sandwich to a child from the Victorian era and they're dropping dead on the spot.
Bruh.
The reason I'm talking about New York City today is because I visited recently, and while I was gallivanting around trying to find things to do, I decided to check out the newest public park, Little Island, in the Chelsea neighborhood of Manhattan. But before we get into my thoughts on the project, and believe me, I do have a lot, let me give you some background on it. Originally announced in 2014, Little Island began as a replacement for the old Pier 55, which had fallen defunct and been heavily damaged by Hurricane Sandy. The park was designed by Manhattan-based landscape architecture firm MNLA, as well as Thomas Heatherwick of Heatherwick Studios, who's the same designer of the infamous Hudson Yards vessel, which... I don't even want to talk about that right now. Anyways, the park cost nearly $300 million to build, of which $260 million was spearheaded by Barry Diller, a billionaire founder of web conglomerate IAC, as well as his fashion designer wife, Diane von Furstenberg. The two also further pledged to cover the operating costs of the park for its first 20 years, which could potentially run them another $120 million. The 2.4-acre park was originally envisioned to appear like a fallen leaf floating on water, which I'm sure you'd all agree was achieved if leaves looked like this. The pier sits on 132 concrete tulips casted off-site at different heights to give a faux topography to the park. From the beginning, the project has been embroiled in controversy. Plenty of eyebrows have been raised not only due to its billionaire financier and location in one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Manhattan, but also due to environmental concerns. The City Club of New York, New York Department of Environmental Conservation, and the United States Army Corps of Engineers were all embroiled in various lawsuits regarding the park's construction. Concerns about wildlife habitat destruction, improper environmental evaluations, and violations of the Clean Water Act were all major topics of contention during this time. Due to legal pressure and a mountain of over-expenditures, plans were scrapped in September of 2017, only for 43 days. Then Governor Andrew Cuomo arranged for Little Island's completion. Construction began in April of 2018, and Little Island opened on May 21st of 2021 to an eagerly awaiting public.
The big city has a new public park. It's called Little Island, and it's at 13th Street in Hudson River Park, and it opens tomorrow.
It aims to make art more accessible to all, with mostly free programming for kids and adults. CBS 2's Alice Gaynor got a preview.
Here's how it started, and here's how it's going. Construction at Little Island is now complete.
There's a sort of choose-your-own-adventure aspect to this.
You can take in a performance.
We are standing in the beautiful amphitheater.
With the Hudson River as a backdrop, there are 687 seats plus standing room.
We've got music, theater, lots of dance, comedy, you name it. Folks are really going to be able to see how the sausage is made.
I visited the park on a gorgeous Wednesday afternoon in early May, taking the subway to Chelsea in order to get there. Walking into the park on the Northern Bridge, you can really grasp the scale of this project, as you get to see the undersides and the piles of the tulips that support the structure. One critique of the entry, however, at least in my opinion, is that it's awfully barren. The ultra-wide concrete pathway offers no tree cover or amenities, or really anything to suggest that you're about to enter a public park. For me, parks work best when the entries are used as transient space to progress the user into the space and make them more comfortable. At Little Island, you kind of just walk across the West Side Highway and you're there. After I entered the park, I was hungry, so I sat down under the center awning of the playground, which ironically doesn't contain a playground, and ordered some french fries and a cup of coffee. The total was $14.
Bruh. Bruh. Bruh.
After spending a small fortune on what essentially amounted to half of a Minecraft chicken leg, I looked for a place to throw away my refuse. The cup that I had been served my horrifyingly overpriced fries in advertised that it was compostable, but I could not find a compost bin anywhere in sight. Matter of fact, I couldn't even find a recycling bin. After regretfully tossing my cup in the waste bin, I took a stroll around the park's paths. The faux topography gives a chance for snaking paths and sets of stairs. However, many of the paths do not allow for alternatives to the stair sets, so if you're someone who's physically disabled, there are a lot of parts of this park that may be tricky or even impossible for you to navigate. Along the paths, there's a variety of plant life, which was nice to see, and I was even able to capture a few birds enjoying the trees that have been planted. There were also these weird spinning art installations, which I assume are placed there to hypnotize you into liking the place. Unfortunately, the grassy knolls were kept off limits while I was visiting, so I'm probably not able to see this place at its full potential. The park features a couple notable nodes, including a small stage on the southeast side known as the Glade, where I saw a couple of people doing yoga, a large amphitheater overlooking the New Jersey coastline, and a lookout point on the southwest end. Given the entire population of the park was pretty large on this particular day, about 50% was crowded around the one main lookout. People were taking selfies, photos of the skyline, chatting with their families, and a lot of them seemed to be tourists, just like myself. This is all well and good, but if the main programming of your park is, let's have a bunch of out-of-town tourists come here and take pictures, you're not really doing the community any service. I understand that there are lots of free performances and events that take place in the amph and the quote-unquote playground, but on an average day like this, it just seems like there isn't much to do except walk around and look at things, basking in the $300 million dent in the middle of the Hudson River. When it comes to Little Island, you don't get much in the way of amenities. While yes, there are some nice performance spaces, a cool little piano tile square, and those weird hypnotic discs I mentioned earlier, there's little in the way of typical things you would find at a park. The park does have a restroom, but I couldn't find a single water fountain anywhere else throughout the space. Additionally, there's no playground, like I said before, and while the island does offer some grassy areas, they're far too small and limited by the faux topography for traditional sports or even something as simple as your kids playing a game of tag. In fact, it seems like all anybody does on this lawn is sit there and look at their phones. But you might even find this activity hard to do, due to my next point. Another issue that I had with the park is if you visit on a sunny day, like the one I was visiting on, the park is blindingly bright. There's little to no shade cover offered, no substantial tree canopy, and the entire place is essentially completely exposed to the sun. Not only can not including shade be detrimental to the user experience of the park, but it can also contribute to the urban heat island effect, which is a growing problem in New York, with 78% of the population experiencing an 8-degree UHI. For a space that's touted as the centerpiece of the Hudson Yards expanded neighborhood, Little Island lacks heavily in terms of connecting the community or even connecting to adjacent amenities. The Manhattan Expressway cuts right through the main entryways to the park, and crossing a high-speed, multi-lane highway can be extremely dangerous for pedestrians. Additionally, the park does not directly connect to the adjacent Highline Park, and you have to cross the expressway and turn down Horatio Street in order to reach the Highline starting point. This makes for an awkward transition in a highly trafficked area that can be made much more efficient and safer by completely separating pedestrian traffic and linking the two developments via a greenbelt, like we've seen in countless other cities, most notably in Amsterdam. In terms of context, the whole development is eerily situated in its surroundings. Newer high-end developments in the Chelsea neighborhood certainly help play into the modern, almost dystopian feel of the park, but often these developments, including Little Island, clash with the historical context of the area. For example, Pier 54, which the park sits partially atop, the remnants of, used to be a bustling pier that was supposed to be the docking point for the Titanic. Developers made the choice to leave the original pier gates open, an act of conservatory that I certainly appreciate, yet such a relic seems out of place in the vast, barren concrete boulevard that surrounds it. In my opinion, Little Island doesn't meet the mark when it comes to fitting into its context, whether that be just the neighborhood it's located in, or even Manhattan as a whole. Its gaudy protrusions, unnatural shape, color palette, and sleek, relatively empty corridors are a mismatch for the historical compactness and resilience that we've come to expect from NYC. However, this more open and unorthodox approach to public space certainly does see some benefits. For starters, the Amph is a beautifully designed event stage featuring a gorgeous wood seating and a stellar view across the Hudson. Additionally, the adjacent playground does provide a nice area for concerts, including relaxing and adaptable tiered lawn seating due to the faux topography. This also represents the opportunity for much more free-form seating arrangement. Much of the programming at Little Island is also free, at least to start out, although it has been theorized that this may be an attempt to cull the backlash against the park's private funding from billionaires. Additionally, the park is very clean and respected by the community, and given the private maintenance of it, it should be easy to keep it that way. And even though I hate to admit it, mostly because I myself am not a fan of the result, the park is a marvel of modern design and engineering, and what we can accomplish with current technology, especially in regard to the casting, transportation, and assembly of the concrete tulips. The island itself is nothing short of a spectacle. However, the most convincing counterpoint one could use to defend the park is the fact that it is brand new. Private investors, city officials, and planned programming can only go as far in terms of molding the community's perception and adoption of the park. The people who are really going to decide the fate of Little Island are the residents of the Chelsea neighborhood and the residents of New York City by large. Little Island certainly has its ups and downs. Quite literally. I think it's a cool project from a design and engineering perspective, and definitely shows what we can accomplish in our modern era of construction. But if I lived in this neighborhood, would I bring my kids here to play? Probably not. And I don't know if I'm just being cynical, but I feel like the NYC Parks Department could have spent the $40 million that they coughed up on this project on upkeep of its parks in lower income neighborhoods, or working towards building new ones there as well. In his interview with Fred from the B1M, Heatherwick states the following.
This isn't a substitute for there being a project in the Bronx or in Harlem. It's a project. Projects should be happening of this level of ambition in every borough and in every part of all types of cities.
But I think this is a poor excuse. Clearly there's favoritism for this project to be pushed through because of the billionaire trust fund backing it and its proximity to the sunk cost fallacy that is the Hudson Yards development. Meanwhile, while tens of millions are blown on a spectacle park that wasn't even necessary in the first place, budget cuts are leading to over 1,000 park employees losing their jobs, and more disenfranchised communities are still fighting for their parks to be kept even close to as crystal clean as Little Island.
More than 1,000 New Yorkers who help to keep our city parks clean are expected to lose their jobs. This is one of many impacts of budget cuts announced last month. CBS 2's Jennifer Bisram has been taking a closer look at the impacts of these cost-cutting measures.
Budget cuts to New York City's Parks Department could result in a filthy city and a loss of over 1,400 jobs, including the agency's Parks Opportunity Program, which provides low-income New Yorkers green jobs while providing them with education and job training.
You're going to see more trash in parks. Bathrooms, if they are open at all, are going to be places you're not going to want to be. We're going to see cuts that are basically larger than what we saw during COVID.
And advocates say city parks that are normally cleaned 5 times a week would go down to being cleaned only once or twice a week after the budget cuts.
Thanks for watching my first video. If you think I'm wrong and a total idiot and a loser, let me know in the comments below. If you think I'm being too nitpicky and being a hater, I kind of am. Also, let me know if there's a topic or a project you would want me to cover in a future video. Till next time, City Slickers.